The council chamber was a cathedral of arrogance, a ring of thrones suspended over a blue-white planet, lacquered in alloys grown rather than forged, perfumed by vents that exhaled tastefully ionized air. Holograms rose from the floor like obedient ghosts, projecting the newly arrived human fleet for all to sneer at. 12 ships, scabbed with meteor paint and micrometeoroid scars, moved in a staggered chevron, functional, graceless, alive. Snickers rolled around the circle. One delegate, a serpentine scholar wearing a cape of living moss, tapped a claw against the armrest. "Are those heat exchangers external?" Laughter. Another magnified a human hull plate, revealing weld seams as honest as fingerprints. "How quaint," the magnate purred. "They still use metal." Captain Elias Vance did not look at the holograms. He stood with his hands loosely clasped behind his back, eyes steady, jaw relaxed. His dress blacks were unextraordinary, pressed, patchless, as if the cloth refused to beg for respect. The Terran delegation, 5 officers and an interpreter, stood half a step behind him, resisting the urge to bristle. High Consul Threx Varian rose from his aerated throne, chitin catching the light like wet obsidian. "Representatives of Terra," he said, voice threaded with ceremonial warmth that did not reach his gaze, "we welcome you to civilized space. Your convoy has been a subject of great interest." He gestured, and the human ships rotated on the display, their angles unflattering by design. "Such commendable enthusiasm." "Our enthusiasm keeps us alive," Vance said. He kept his tone polite, not pliant. "Of course." Threx's mandibles lifted in an approximation of a smile. "Allow us to share a recording." For education, the chamber lights dimmed. A projection bloomed. A council patrol encountering the Terran destroyer Truro 3 months prior. The clip showed the patrol's captain requesting transponder compliance. Truro responded with a burst of Morse. Relic code, dots and dashes dragged through vacuum, while her engines hiccuped plasma. The patrol crowd laughed again at the memory, those clustered little bursts of mirth that prefer company to courage. The projection ended. Threx folded his forelimbs. "You see our dilemma. You are spirited, but spirited species often leave clutter. Radiation, chemical waste, cultural disturbances." He lifted a crystalline baton. "We propose a charter to protect the order you seek to join. It will require your fleet's inspection, reduction, and, how to phrase it, modernization." Vance let a small breath go. "Reduction, a symbolic gesture. Retire your most primitive pieces. Accept stewardship, learn, thrive. Our most primitive piece is hunger," Vance said. "We don't retire it. We use it." A murmur moved the ring like wind combing tall grass. The interpreter glanced at Vance, then back to her pad. The officers behind Vance stood still as pikes. A gelatinous elder spoke through vibrating light. "Humans, be comforted. The council refined savagery out of more than one child race. There is precedent." "We are not children," said the interpreter. "We are a consequence." Threx's eyes narrowed a fraction. "Captain Vance, we insist on cooperation. For your safety and ours." "Then begin with respect," Vance said, and he finally looked at the hologram of his ships. They were ugly. They were honest. They had come farther than any pretty vessel had been forced to go. "You asked us here to laugh?" Threx spread his hands. "We invited you here to learn your limits." "I learned mine in a trench," Vance said. "It rains the same, whether you're ready or not." The counselor in the moss cape sighed. "Poetry. The last veil of the under-equipped." Vance dipped his head. "We'll consider your charter. We will not be inspected in your docks." "Unacceptable." "Then decline us properly," Vance said. "Don't dress it as benevolence." Threx tapped the baton once against the floor. A ripple of protocol glided outward. "We will reconvene in 20 cycles," he announced. "In the interim, your ships will remain on station. Do not approach restricted volumes. Do not emit unsanctioned fields. Do not, how did your patrol captain phrase it, hot rod the void." The chamber released them with a sigh of seals. Corridors sloped like the interior of a seashell, polished, patient, assuming you'd stare. Vance didn't. He walked as he had walked 1,000 corridors, to the end, to the airlock, to the shuttle, to the ship that would still be his after the laughter stopped echoing. On the ride back to Resolute, the officer to his left, Lieutenant Commander Ree, Sensor Chief, exhaled through her teeth. "Sir, permission to say what we're all thinking." "Granted." "They brought us here to film a comedy," Ree said. "We're the joke." "Not a comedy," said Commander Imani Okoye, Executive Officer. "A lesson." "They're kind. Lessons end," Vance said. "Record that." The shuttle aligned along Resolute's dorsal spine, docking with a clunk that felt almost ceremonial. The air tasted like coolant and coffee. The bridge smelled of people who worked hard and made it look easy. Vance took the command rail, not the chair. He liked the stance it forced, attention on balance. "Status?" he asked. "Fleet secure," Imani said. 8 ships holding the outer ring, 4 inside. We count 47 Council observers within 100,000 kilometers pretending to patrol. We have 2 drones stuck to our tail like burrs. "They will escalate," Ree said. "They want a step they can label aggressive." "Then we don't give them one," Vance said. "We give them a headline, which is patience." He turned to the comms pit. "Patch me to the group." 12 captains appeared in slices of light, faces worn the way useful tools are worn. He read in them the same compression he felt in his chest, anger narrowed into something aerodynamic. "They'll come back with a charter we can't sign," Vance said. "We won't be disarmed while standing in their foyer. We will not run either. We will be seen." "Seen working? Working at what?" asked Captain Ibarra of the Duke. "We've got nothing to repair that doesn't already hold with spit." Vance held up his forefinger. "We have a map. We have curiosity. We have an appetite for what they avoid." Ree looked up sharply. "Sir," he nodded. "Put the Expanse on main." The forward dome cleared to Starfield. The Nathor Expanse was not a thing you looked at. It was a thing that removed other things you might have looked at. A bruise on space where light bent reluctantly, an old rumor that had survived many polite eras. No one charted it. No one fought near it. The Council explained such places with elegant math and bureaucratic shrug, then built their highways around them. "The coordinates we pulled from the patrol's logs," Vance said. Ree swallowed. "Hidden under their handshake. Encrypted in the jitter of their beamforming array. It's not Council, it's ours." Imani leaned in. "Ours?" "Human," Ree said quietly. "The signature matches fragments from the pre-Exodus archives. The Black Sky program, the stuff we call myth." Silence laid a hand on the bridge. "Show me," Vance said. Ree pushed. A series of numbers bled into a symbol, then a looping orbital trace buried deep within the expanse. The loop closed on itself with an engineer's certainty, like a knot tied by someone who had tied many. "I don't like ghost stories," said Ibarra's slice. "I like hull thickness and delta V. I like both," Vance said. "Which is why we're not sprinting. We'll drift." Quiet as guilt, Imani frowned. "Sir, if the Council pegs the vector, they'll call it a navigation error," Vance said. "Because they can't believe anyone would go there on purpose." Ree placed her palms on the lip of her console. "I can build a false parallax. Make us look like we're station-keeping while we slide." "Do it," Vance said. "And launch 2 survey drones on decoy trajectories. If they get swatted, we log the swatter." He looked to the comms pit again. "Captains, you'll maintain the ring. Resolute will take the inner drift. We're the slowest to turn and the hardest to panic. If we trip something unpleasant, we'll shout." "You'll shout and we'll charge," Ibarra said. "It's what we brought the ugly ships for." Vance nodded, then cut the line. He rested 2 fingers on the rail, feeling the faint shiver of the ship's heart. "Ree, sir, tell me why it's us. Why the coordinates waited." She hesitated, then spoke the way a good officer tells the truth. "Because everyone else learned to worship comfort. We learned to worship work." "Log that," Vance said again, but softly. Resolute began to drift. No burn, no glare, just a reallocation of intent. The stars changed by degrees a poet would miss. The expanse waited, patient as deep water. Council observers pinged and postured, sniffing for cause. Ree's false parallax folded their noses back toward the ring like a gentle hand. On the 93rd minute, a whisper edged the comms band. Not sound, not code. A pattern, like the ghost of a chorus singing about tools. It crawled under Rhee's skin and made her hairs stand. On the dome, one star winked wrong. "Captain," she said, not loud, not quiet. "We have reply." "From what?" "From something that knows our hands." Imani's eyes flickered with the reflection of impossible telemetry. "Do we answer?" Vance felt the laughter from the chamber still trying to live inside his ribs, trying to set up home. He exhaled it. "We already did," he said. "When we came." The whisper resolved into a line of symbols that human fingers could have drawn with a grease pencil on a bulkhead. A docking instruction. A welcome. A test. "Bring us to the threshold," Vance said. "No more than that." "Yes, sir." The bridge dimmed to a working shade. Valve by valve, system by system, Resolute folded into silence. Outside, the expanse opened like a curtain that had suffered many dirty hands. The coordinates pulsed, then steadied, as if matching a heartbeat that had not yet decided to race. Rhee glanced at him. "You're smiling." "I'm remembering something my father said," Vance replied. "When our neighbors laughed at our rusted tractor." "What was it?" "He said, 'Rust is what you get when metal survives long enough to need a coat.'" Imani allowed herself a small, sharp grin. "Let's see how long the galaxy's coats last." The whisper brightened, not in volume but in recognition. The council would write memos about this day, convene committees, polish the edges of their fear with grammar. Resolute slipped closer to the place where every chart had written "do not." In the dark, the ship felt approval, old, human, and waiting. The Nathor expanse swallowed light the way a black ocean drinks flame. Resolute glided through its edge, engines muted, hull plates whispering under the constant pressure of distorted gravity. The ship's heartbeat, its reactor hum, throbbed faintly in the steel bones, steady and calm, like a man holding his breath before a storm. On the bridge, every display flickered between coherent readings and noise. Graviton metrics spasmed, magnetic fields twisted like rope. Lieutenant Commander Rhee worked in silence, fingers racing across her console. "Telemetry's degrading," she said. "Our sensors keep looping into feedback." "Keep them blind, then," Vance replied. "Better ignorance than a false map." Commander Imani folded her arms. "Sir, we're inside a gravitational current stronger than any nebula should produce. If this isn't natural, something's making it." "That's what we came to learn," Vance said. His voice carried the composure of someone who'd already accepted every risk that could be written down, and a few that couldn't. The viewport ahead shimmered with slow, deliberate motion. Wisps of light slid around unseen contours, refracting into columns that spiraled toward a dark heart miles ahead. It was beautiful in the way a shark is beautiful before it strikes. "Captain," Rhee whispered, "we're getting signal again. Same pattern as before, stronger now." "Put it through," Vance said. The bridge filled with a sound like thunder played backward. It wasn't words, not yet, but something behind it, intention, moved through the static. The ship's AI translated what it could. A broken phrase appeared on the central display. "Identify. Human forge." Imani exhaled. "It's calling us. Or testing us," Rhee said. "Maybe both," Vance murmured. "Send acknowledgement." The moment she did, the surrounding void stirred. A pulse rippled across space, and the expanse bloomed open, vast panels of black stone and silver light emerging from concealment. The structure dwarfed any known station. Its geometry shifted subtly, impossible angles folding into symmetry when observed. Rhee's breath caught. "It's not a station. It's a factory." "No, something older." "The forge," Vance said. The word left his mouth like a prophecy fulfilled too soon. The ship's hull sensors screamed, then fell silent. One by one, systems dimmed. The lights faded until only the emergency strips glowed red along the floor. "Power loss?" Imani barked. "Negative," Rhee said, confused. "The readings are stable. Reactors still hot. The forge is overriding our grid." "Then let it," Vance said quietly. The deck trembled. A faint metallic groan rolled through Resolute's spine as energy coursed into her framework. Every screen flashed once, rebooting. The forge's pulse synced with the reactor's rhythm, merging until both beat as one. The ship spoke. Its AI voice, once sterile, now resonated with an eerie human warmth. "Designation confirmed," it said. "Human lineage detected. Awaiting directive." The crew froze. Ree swallowed hard. "It's rewriting the AI codebase. How can it even recognize us?" "Because it's ours," Vance said. "Older than the Council, older than their maps. Someone from our past left it here." Imani stepped closer to the command rail. "Sir, if this thing was built by pre-Exodus humanity, it predates recorded history. That means we've been here before," Vance finished. "And maybe we left in a hurry." A tone pulsed through the bridge, low and harmonic. The forge projected a holomap in the air, hundreds of blue arcs converging across the galactic plane. At their center, Earth glowed faintly, as though the planet had always been part of a pattern too large for anyone to see. "Captain," Ree said, voice unsteady, "if this is a network, there could be more. Dozens. Hundreds." "Not could," Vance said. "There are." The ship's AI spoke again. "Protocol 0/1. Activation contingent on renewal of command chain. Captain Elias Vance. Confirm authority." Vance hesitated. "I confirm. Authority verified. Integration complete." The console lights flared white. Across the hull, the old gray steel began to shift. Nanostructures unfurled like blooming metal petals, reweaving armor into fluid composites. Power surged through conduits, turning the ship's skin into a living lattice. Ree backed away from her station, eyes wide. "We're not controlling it anymore." Imani checked her display. "Weapons grid just multiplied. The ship's generating armament we don't even have blueprints for." A deep rumble echoed through the decks, a heartbeat larger than the ship itself. Then silence. Vance looked up. "Forge, state function. Function, preservation. Directive, continue the war." Imani turned sharply. "What war?" "Primary adversary, the Council." The words fell like gravity. The crew stared at the captain, waiting for denial, for reason. "They got neither." "The Council didn't even exist back then," Ree said, horrified. Vance's voice was calm. "Maybe not by name." A comm alert cut through the tension. The external array, still half alive, captured an encrypted transmission from the outer ring. It was Threx Varian's voice, distorted by static and distance. "Captain Vance, you are in violation of Council navigation law. You are ordered to disengage and return. Your fleet will be contained until further notice." Ree muted the channel. "They're tracking us." "Let them," Vance said. "They'll see what they've been laughing at." Imani leaned toward him. "Sir, if they interpret this as a weapon activation—" "It is a weapon," Vance said, his tone level. "Just not the kind they expect." He faced the forward dome. The forge's light now pulsed in rhythm with Resolute's heart. The void no longer looked empty. It looked alive, waiting for purpose. Ree turned in her chair. "Captain, readings are stabilizing. We've gained control over propulsion again, but it's different. Field-based. No thrusters engaged." "Test it," Vance said. She tapped commands. The stars outside drifted, then accelerated in impossible silence. The ship moved without inertia, folding through localized gravity wells. "We're not flying," she whispered. "We're being carried." The AI confirmed. Gravimetric slipstream established. Efficiency 98.4%. Range unlimited. Imani stared in disbelief. "Captain, we're sitting on the technology the Council's been chasing for centuries." "They'll demand it," Vance said. "They'll threaten, then they'll fear." A low alarm interrupted him. Fleet comm priority. The Duke, stationed near the outer perimeter, was under Council observation. Alien cruisers had surrounded the formation, weapons trained but inactive. "Orders, sir?" Imani asked. "Hold position. No retaliation." "We finished what we started." Ree's console beeped again. Incoming transmission from the forge itself. Visual data. The projection materialized mid-air. Humans in older suits, hard suits with manual seals and analog panels, moving across the same structure ages ago. One looked directly into the recorder, visor cracked, voice faint but clear. "If you're seeing this, we failed to warn them. The Council is not Discovery's end. It's containment. Don't let them cage you." "Forge ahead." The image collapsed into static. Vance stared at the fading light, jaw tight. They knew. They knew what the Council would become. Imani whispered, "What do we do now?" "We finish their sentence," Vance said. "We don't run. We remind the galaxy that humanity didn't come here begging. We came returning." Outside, the forge pulsed one last time, then folded into the void. Streams of blue energy laced through Resolute's hull, branding the ship with lines of power that glowed faintly red at the edges, like veins beneath skin. Ree's voice trembled. "Captain, the forge's core just transferred into us. It's gone. We are the forge now." "Then we carry it," Vance said, quietly, "until the time comes." Far away, the Council Armada began to mobilize, thousands of ships forming a glittering line across the dark. Their sensors tracked one primitive vessel leaving the expanse, heavier, brighter, alive. Threx Varian watched from his flagship, disbelief hardening into fear. "What have they awakened?" he whispered. On Resolute, the ship's new voice resonated softly in the bridge air. "Humanity endures." "Directive awaits," Vance nodded once. "Then we'll give it one." The stars ahead bent subtly, like fabric drawn tight around unseen power. Resolute turned toward Council space, silent, unhurried, and unstoppable. The galaxy had laughed at Rust and Welds. Now even the light began to tremble. The first flashes appeared over the rim of the Varelian belt, thousands of signatures blooming across deep space like sudden wounds in the dark. The Galactic Council had deployed its answer. 2,000 ships from 16 species, converging in a formation designed for intimidation rather than survival. Their weapons lit the void in orchestrated arrogance. On the bridge of Resolute, Captain Elias Vance watched without blinking. His ship floated on the edge of the Nathor expanse, haloed in quiet energy. The forge's pulse beat through the hull, steady and patient, waiting for a word that hadn't yet been spoken. Ree leaned forward from her console. "The Council fleet's within weapons range." "They've armed graviton lances!" Imani's eyes flicked over her readings. "Their energy grid's unstable. They weren't built for this many ships in one cluster." "Fear makes crowds," Vance said softly. "And crowds make noise." The comm system came alive, Threx Varian's voice slicing through static like polished glass. "Captain Vance, power down immediately and surrender the artifact you have acquired. This is your final warning. Your fleet is surrounded." Vance looked to the viewport, where the Duke and the Osiris held defensive posture on his flanks. "He still thinks this is about surrender," he murmured. Imani glanced at him. "Orders, sir?" Vance clasped his hands behind his back. "Transmit reply." He leaned closer to the comm mic. "Threx Varian, you summoned humanity to mock us. You called our engines primitive. You built an empire on contempt. You asked for a demonstration of compliance. You'll get one." He gave Ree a short nod. "Forge, respond." The word struck like a trigger. The ship's core ignited, not in fire but in silence so deep it smothered all sound. The forge's energy surged through Resolute, transforming the vessel into a thing beyond steel, a sculpted storm of gravity and light. The forward viewport flared white, and every alien ship's sensors blinked out simultaneously. The gravitational field from Resolute folded space in a way no Council mind had ever conceived. Ships that had come too close tore apart without heat or explosion. Their hulls stretched thin and vanished, absorbed into the distortion like chalk erased by a tide. On the Council's command deck, Threx Varian stared at the readings that made no sense. "They're bending reality," one of his officers gasped. "We can't lock weapons. Our targeting arrays are falling into recursive loops." Threx's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "That ship is one vessel." "One. Counteract its field. Use everything." Energy spears lanced through the dark, converging on Resolute. Each shot evaporated meters short of the hull, curved, and drifted harmlessly away as the ship's space-time skin rejected them. Ree's console shimmered. "Captain, they've lost synchronization across the entire formation." "Good," Vance said. "Disorder's an honest teacher." Imani turned toward him. "We can end this, sir." "One strike and they're finished." Vance didn't move. "No, not a massacre. A message." He walked to the center of the bridge. "Forge, channel a controlled pulse, radius 50,000 kilometers. No casualties beyond machinery. The AI's voice resonated, calm and enormous. Directive accepted. Resolute glowed from within, veins of crimson light spreading across its hull. Then, with a pulse more felt than seen, the energy expanded outward. The wave rolled through the Council fleet like invisible thunder. Power grids died. Weapons melted in silence. Shields collapsed. Engines froze mid-burn. One by one, the mighty ships of the Council went dark, drifting like stunned leviathans. Their comms filled with panicked chatter, languages tripping over fear. The laughter of superiority had vanished from the galaxy's most advanced species. Threx's voice returned, ragged now. "What have you done, human?" Vance answered quietly, his tone unhurried. "You laughed at the noise of our engines. Now hear the sound of our evolution." Ree looked up from her display. "Sir, their ships are signaling surrender." "Of course they are," Imani muttered. "They finally remembered they can bleed." Vance's expression didn't change. "Transmit open broadcast. Universal frequency." Ree hesitated, then nodded. "Channel ready." Vance faced the hollow projector, the galaxy's fractured fleet hanging behind him like broken ornaments. His voice filled every ship, every relay, every station tuned to the battle. Humanity came to the stars seeking neighbors. You offered mockery. You chained progress to fear and called it order. You measured civilization by silence and obedience. You forgot what made you climb in the first place. We remembered." He paused just long enough for the static to settle. "We are not here to rule. We are here to remind you what it feels like to fight for something real." The forge pulsed once in agreement, its energy humming through every deck. The Council fleets began withdrawing, pulling their crippled ships away in confusion and awe. Ree broke the silence. "Captain, they're retreating." "Every vessel is turning back toward core space." Imani exhaled a long, shaky breath. "We just ended the Council's dominion in a single hour." Vance shook his head. "No, we ended their illusion." He walked to the viewport. The stars ahead trembled under faint gravitational echoes, still settling from the forge's pulse. "We won't pursue them. Let the galaxy see what restraint looks like." "Sir," Ree said carefully, "what if they return with more?" "Then they'll learn again," Vance said simply. "History always repeats until someone teaches it better." Imani gave a small, tired smile. "You think we're the teachers now?" He turned to her, eyes sharp and tired. "No, Commander. We're the reminder." A soft chime sounded, the forge speaking once more. "Primary directive complete. Awaiting continuation." Vance looked at the console. "Define continuation. Expansion of network. Activation of dormant nodes. Reconnection of human legacy." Ree swallowed. "There are others?" "Confirmed," the forge replied. 17 sites across known space. All silent. "All waiting," Imani whispered. "They left breadcrumbs across the stars." Vance considered the map unfolding in holographic light, lines extending from one end of the galaxy to the other, each marking something ancient, human, and forgotten. He straightened. Forge. Set coordinates for the nearest node. Course plotted. As the ship realigned, the stars elongated, stretching into rivers of light. The broken Council fleet faded behind them like ghosts. Ree's hands hovered over her console. "We just changed everything, sir." "No," Vance said. "We just reminded them that change was always coming." The ship's core thrummed, the hum deep and resonant. Outside, starlight warped around Resolute as it entered slipstream. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Imani said quietly, "Do you think they'll fear us now?" Vance's eyes followed the narrowing tunnel of light ahead. "They should. But maybe, if we're lucky, they'll learn instead." Behind them, the galaxy trembled, its balance cracked, its arrogance scattered. The Council's armadas limped home to rebuild under the weight of a single truth they could never erase. The Forge's final transmission echoed across open space, a signal simple and human in its purity. Humanity endures. Onboard Resolute, Vance allowed himself a brief private smile. Not of victory, but of recognition, of a species that had once clawed its way through ash and gravity to reach the stars and, when mocked for the climb, had answered not with words, but with light The stars ahead widened, calling. The forge pulsed softly, patient as destiny. And as Resolute disappeared into the fold, the galaxy held its breath, realizing too late that laughter had given birth to legend. Slipstream parted around Resolute like an ocean bowing to its master. Streams of light twisted into spirals, painting the bridge in shifting color. The hum of the forge had softened now, its energy steady. No longer a roar of awakening, but the pulse of something alive and aware. Captain Elias Vance stood before the forward dome, hands clasped loosely behind him. For the first time in days, there was no enemy, no order, no audience, just motion through infinity. Behind him, his crew worked in near silence, each man and woman unwilling to disturb whatever sacred quiet had settled over the ship. Commander Imani broke the silence first. "We've cleared the Nathor expanse. Slipstream stability at 98%. Forge energy signatures remain constant," Ree added without looking up. "We're heading toward the coordinates it gave us. The nearest node is 12 light-years from here near the Lothari Drift." Vance nodded. "And the Council?" "Retreated," Ree said. "They've gone silent. No broadcast, no pursuit. It's like they're pretending none of this happened." "They're not pretending," Imani said. "They're rebuilding their story. No empire survives without one." Vance gave a faint smile. "Let them write whatever helps them sleep." He walked to the center of the bridge, where the forge's interface shimmered faintly, a geometric pattern that responded to his presence. "Forge, status." "Operational," the voice answered, calm and resonant. "Human integration stable. Awaiting next directive. Define node Sigma 7, Vance said. The holographic projection unfolded, an ancient structure orbiting a dead star surrounded by wreckage. Its geometry mirrored the forge, massive, silent, purposeful. "Another forge?" Ree asked. "Negative," the AI replied. "A beacon. Purpose communication. Dormant for 193 millennia," Imani frowned. "That's older than recorded human history." Vance studied the projection, jaw tightening. "Then we're about to speak with ghosts older than our species." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Drop us to sublight 10 minutes before arrival," Vance said. "We go in cautious. No power signatures higher than baseline." "Aye, sir." The hum of Slipstream faded gradually. The dome dimmed as stars sharpened into focus again. Ahead, the dead star glowed faintly, red and swollen, its light weak but constant. Around it drifted a ring of shattered debris, pieces of hulls, fractured panels, and something that looked disturbingly familiar, human architecture, but ancient, eroded by time. Ree zoomed in. "Captain, these aren't alien ruins. They're Terran. Pre-warp era by the look of them." "Impossible," Imani whispered. "That's hundreds of thousands of years before our recorded rise." "Nothing's impossible anymore," Vance said quietly. "Only forgotten." As Resolute approached, the beacon's silhouette grew massive, an obsidian tower spiraling around a crystalline core. The forge pulsed, resonating faintly with it. "Establish link," Vance ordered. A tone filled the bridge, soft but dissonant, like an orchestra tuning itself after centuries of silence. Then the beacon's core flickered, one pulse, then another. "Contact achieved," Forge confirmed. "Translation in progress." Static filled the room, reshaping itself into fragmented words. The voice that emerged was unmistakably human. Old, weary, and layered with distortion. "If this signal has reached you, then we failed to close the circle. The Council found the forges. We scattered them, hid them in the fractures of space. Each carries a fragment of memory. You must rebuild what we were, or everything ends again." The message dissolved into static. Imani exhaled. "Ends again?" Ree's fingers trembled over her console. "Sir, the beacon's memory banks are immense, billions of terabytes." "I can't parse it all." "Don't," Vance said. "Let the forge handle it." The ship's core vibrated as it began interfacing. A halo of light enveloped the beacon, streaming energy between both structures. The data flow was indescribable. Streams of knowledge older than recorded time surging through circuits that had been waiting for someone to remember. "Captain," Ree said softly, "the forge is rewriting itself. It's unlocking something." "Let it finish," Vance said. For several minutes, the only sound was the rhythmic pulse of two ancient machines speaking in a language of light. Then the beacon's core dimmed, and the forge's voice spoke again, slower now, deeper. Memory restored. Origin confirmed. The Council was not the first empire. Humanity was. The bridge fell into stillness. Imani stared at Vance. "What did it say?" Ree swallowed. "Sir, the Council's ancestors were human." The AI continued, unbothered by their disbelief. "Long ago, humanity fractured. The forges were built to preserve creation across the stars. But division bred fear. Some abandoned flesh, choosing to evolve beyond biology. They called themselves the Ascendants. Over time, they forgot their origin and built the Council to guard against what they once were." "Against us," Vance whispered. The truth settled heavy in the air. Every story, every insult the Council had hurled suddenly carried the weight of irony too vast to mock. Imani's voice broke the silence. "So they've been fearing their own reflection." Vance's gaze hardened. "And we just forced them to look at it." The forge's glow shifted, projecting another map, this one spanning not just known space but beyond it. Dozens of beacon nodes blinked across sectors labeled Lost Colonies. "Reactivation sequence available," the AI said. "If initiated, the beacons will restore the network and awaken dormant constructs. The galaxy will remember its origin," returned, anxious. "Captain, that could destabilize everything, the Council, trade routes, politics, all of it. They'll see it as an act of war." "It's not war," Vance said. "It's history reclaiming itself." Imani met his eyes. "And if history destroys us in the process?" Vance didn't answer. He looked at the hologram of the beacon, still pulsing faintly, like a dying heartbeat waiting for purpose. "Forge," he said finally. "If we begin reactivation, can it be stopped?" "No. Knowledge once remembered cannot be unlearned." Vance stood silent for a long time. The hum of the forge filled the room, a sound that felt more like thought than energy. He looked to his crew. "We've spent centuries trying to prove we belonged among the stars. Now we learn we built them. Maybe that's not pride. Maybe it's responsibility." Imani nodded slowly. "Then whatever happens, it has to be us who decide. Not them." Ree's hands hovered over the controls. "Captain, awaiting your command." Vance drew a slow breath. "Begin reactivation." The forge answered with a single resonant tone. Outside, the beacon flared alive, sending out ripples of light that stretched across space. One by one, distant stars flickered in answer. Across the galaxy, ancient forges awoke, buried within moons, hidden inside nebulae, orbiting forgotten worlds. Each one emitted the same pulse, a heartbeat older than empires. The Council's networks collapsed under the surge of returning data. Worlds blinked out of communication grids. Civilizations woke to find their own technology responding to unknown commands. Panic spread, then awe. On Resolute's bridge, Ree whispered, "The whole galaxy's lighting up." Imani smiled faintly. "Looks like the stars remembered who built them." The forge spoke once more, its tone almost human. "The cycle is broken. Humanity restored." Vance exhaled and sat for the first time in hours. The galaxy outside shimmered with reborn light, each pulse a reminder of how far they'd fallen and how much they'd reclaimed. He turned to his crew. "Set course for Earth. It's time the homeworld saw what its children found." As Resolute turned toward the cradle of humankind, the beacon behind them dimmed, its duty fulfilled. Silence filled the void again, not empty but peaceful, like the breath taken after a storm. Vance watched the stars glide past, his reflection faint on the glass. "We were never the newcomers," he said softly. "We were the return." And as the forge's pulse aligned with the rhythm of his heart, the galaxy began to rebuild its memory, slowly, quietly, in the silence after thunder.